Hey everybody. So today what we're going to do is go through the stock market, what transpired and what we're going to do about it. There's several stocks to go over that had very decent moves that are setting up to go higher. And there's also some that are breaking down. So I'm going to go through them and just go through actionable points on what I think we need to look at, key levels, things like that. As always, please subscribe to this channel and click notifications because what we go over here is timely, and we also do a lot of live feeds, and you're going to want to be notified when they are. They seem pretty informative. People seem to be learning a lot from them. So just another housekeeping issue. I'm doing a more zoomed in video tonight. And I'm doing a black background versus the normal blue one. So just tell me, for those that have been watching these videos daily, just let me know what your thoughts are on this and the quality of it, if it's something that you like. I like how the access, and I like it bigger. But you just have to let me know for what you're watching on. I would appreciate it. All right. So let's just really jump into it. Everything's going to be in alphabetical order, and let's just rock and roll here. So the first one that we're getting a lot of questions on is Airbnb, and I'm going to remove this text, and the symbol is going to be right up here in the left so that you can see the symbol. So I don't need that on my screen right now. So what you're going to wind up seeing here is a nice cut to the 21-day, and then we popped over it today, but we have to get through this 152. Now, if you zoom in on this, and we're really going to zoom in. If you really zoom in on this, the action is this 152.70. See how we got up there and then we tried and we kept trying and it just got worse and worse, didn't it? So we finally retested the 21-day and now we're starting to pop back over it. But this 152.70 is really a level that you're going to have to see, and you're going to have to see what happens with it. I would not be chasing this. I have a lot of other issues with this where, like, look here. See how you still have this trend line right here? So I still have that. And even if I clear that by basing, that just means that I'm basing. It doesn't mean that I'm going to break out. I got to clear all this. I have to clear all this. And then that's only going to get me up to here to the 159, which since there was a 50-day, we have just not been able to stay above it. So just consider that. I would not be chasing this at all. So AI, and let me get rid of this. And this is just my email address. Someone asked me for it before, so I threw it in there. Symbols up here on the left. And again, just please let me know and comment on what you think of the video as far as the black backdrop versus the blue. I heard it's a lot easier for people that are on their phones. And I also highlighted everything in white instead of gray, which I think makes an enormous difference. And I zoomed in on the screen. So just let me know. Again, AI, see how you're down here, 59, 56, and you just can't hold. Now, if we get rid of these indicators and we just look at what's going on, you're forming a little H, right? So you're going to have to see how this plays out, but you do have this break here that is just nasty. And you can see what happened. Then you try to get back up. Rejection again. It is possible that you could bounce here. And this is a spot where some people buy. And I'm just going to explain the trade and the thought process. So you form this H, and then the H doesn't break. Okay, that's a reversal. What would constitute that this would be a reversal trade, like a failed breakout of an H, is I would need to get above this close. So the close of this is, let's see, 60.60. So I would need to get above that. If I pop over that, some people will use that as a trigger, and then they'll just use these lows right here, 58.08, as their stop to get out. But you can see how you could actually trade up to this level and even this long-legged doji right here and still be in the downtrend. So there is a trade here for 10 points. If you're interested in doing a shorter term trade to that level, I can see how somebody would do that and that would work. But let's just pull this down and really get into this a little bit more. I mean, you've had an enormous move on this, right? So I really just think that, like, an enormous move down, I really just think you have to be careful. But you can see from these levels that I'm drawing right now how this could play out and what you could do with it. So that would be one way to trade this. If you start throwing the indicators in, they could be an issue here. Usually when you're basing, they add less value. So I'm not really that concerned about them. I'd be more concerned in the price action. And the price action is relatively simple. If you pop up over that and you want to play it, you're more than welcome to. I think it's a decent trade idea. It acted great, AI on the run, and then we just collapsed again. And that was earnings, I believe. Let's throw in the events and just see. Yeah, that was earnings again. I mean, they've had 2 earnings quarters, and they've both just been disasters. So just keep that in mind, which is kind of hard to do when you're a new publicly traded company. They usually are pretty good. This is a pretty interesting chart. I like the volume spike, and I like how we stopped going down. And I want to point out a pattern to you. So you see how we have a long red bar here, and then the next red bar is shorter, and you have more wick than you had on either side of this. Why that's important is it starts showing that you've got uncertainty, meaning the people that were selling here that were like, oh, I made all this money, that got out, they're not getting out anymore. A matter of fact, today was the first day that you hit a lower, right? You didn't hit a lower low. And on a light volume day, you formed a little hammer here. So you could actually see this start to base a little bit and trade up. So if I was in this, I wouldn't be overly concerned any longer. I would want to see if we hold this level right here. And this is ASTS, and the symbol's up here in the corner. So what you would see is this, 943. If you can see that level and you can see holding that level, you can stay in the trade and see if it builds, because that can build. And then you don't have to worry about trying to get back into the trade later on. That can build. And if you break above this again and clear above the 200 day, this is possible. This could be a real monster. It's going to take time to get there, but it could be. And what I like about this too is, and just point this out, usually the first time where you break over a big hurdle, you come back and you test. And that's exactly what you did. You broke 2 big hurdles here. You broke the 200 day, and you had your first break here, and we'll get rid of this now. You had your first break here, right? At 1031, and you can see exactly where we closed today. So, resistance flipped to support, and then it flipped back into resistance again. So you can see how you're kind of wedged in here, and what that's doing for you is it's just setting you up in such a way that you can play this. You don't have to panic and get out of this. And we can shrink this down a little bit, and you can see what's going on here. But that's what I like about it. I like that. I like this. It's interesting because you're in a spot where you really don't need to act. You can let the stock do what it wants to do if you've already been in it. And if you break above this 1019, well, you can see getting above that could lead to a retest of this 1280 level, and breaking 943 would just get out of the trade. So it's a relatively simple idea. BBW is really setting up here. So let's just go through this and get rid of these events and put these indicators in for a moment. So this has just been setting up. But what I don't like, I like the volume that's come in. This is what I don't like. I don't like all these wicks. Okay, all these wicks, what do they mean? They mean price rejection. For those that have been watching the candlestick videos, and if you haven't watched the candlestick video, I will link it in the back of this. And for those that are new and beginners that are listening to this, I strongly recommend that your bar of choice become a candlestick and you become intimately familiar with the patterns of them, as well as what these wicks mean and the bodies. It tells a story, and it does give you an edge. So just keep that in mind. I will link that in the back again. So you can see that right here, right? You tried to break out, you failed. As we know, wicks are price rejection. So I would just be concerned every single time it happens. I get up here, and now I have a long-legged doji followed by another one, and that just shows uncertainty. It doesn't know that what we want to do. You would think you'd have commitment after a move like this, but you just don't have it. So I would be very cautious up here. I understand why you like it. I see this too. I see the slope. I see how you're forming this huge move higher, and it's getting tighter and tighter in here. My concern is that you just have these huge wicks. So just get some confirmation before you do anything. And confirmation would be a breakout bar without a huge wick in it. So keep that in mind. Bumble, I'm going to clear this off, but it's right up here. And what you can see here, and what I think is so fascinating about this one, is let's get rid of all these indicators for a minute, right? And let's get rid of all these lines, because I've been playing with this one for a while. And we're just going to start over completely. So here's what I like about this stock. I mean, it's been basing forever, all the way back up here, right? So let's just start by getting an understanding of the easiest one that we're dealing with, right? This is the minor one, okay? And what we've seen so far is we've seen it come back down, rally, try to get through that line and fail. And then we've seen it pop its head over and now try again. Now, that could mean it's basing, but for that confirmation, we need 49.27. Get through 49.27 and you could see a pop. And of course, what we'd want to see on that pop is huge volume. You can play volume two ways. One thing I do like is when volume just goes away completely and dries up. Because when it comes back in, it means two things. One, yes, you have no buyers, but you know what else it means? You have no sellers, meaning people are done selling. And that could be what's transpired here. Usually when you have a huge long red wick like this, or a red spike of volume, it usually means a bottom is forming, because you've actually, the people that own it have literally sold all their shares. So there's nobody left to sell, right? That's when you can start looking at these patterns and understanding them. And if you want to just put it into perspective, you could use something as simple as relative volume and throw that in and go, boy, that's definitely, yeah, we traded 7 times volume that day. They just got, yeah, they puked everybody out. It's gone. And then you can kind of go from there and understand why that might be significant, and then see how it respects that line and starts to trade back up. What I do like is how you've gotten, after this big move in selling, you're sitting right here now and you're above that wick. So I would watch this level, and I would use this 46.62 as your support, and I would use it as your stop if you close below that. But I would wait and see if you can get a push through this level, and that would give us a 2.5 point stop. I'm not really worried about the 50-day. I understand it's pointing down. It's new. It's a new stock. So it's going to take some time for it all to work itself out. And you have been in a downtrend the whole time. So you have to take that into account too. It's not really a ringing endorsement. But that said, after you're breaking through this, you have this level up here. This can build and this can go. Getting through this level after failing here should have a powerful enough move to get us through some of this, this resistance up here. So I would put this one on your list. I like this idea. So CELH, I will get rid of this. And, we put this in the newsletter, in the room. And I really think that this is setting up for a big move. And, I'm going to get rid of all these horizontal lines, and we're going to get rid of all these segment lines. And this was an alert that I had that I just don't need anymore because I was able to buy it a lot cheaper. So we'll get rid of all the rays. So, and let's get rid of this, all this text. Okay. So let's just look at what transpired here, because we're going to really get into this one. I think this can be a massive winner, and I would recommend that you put this on your radar. So let's just really get into it. See this line right up here? We've hit reject, 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 right? You can see that pretty clearly. And you can see how when they announced that they were going to do this, where did we go to? Everyone figured, oh, they'll price it right at the support line. And they didn't do that. Well, nobody liked that idea, except for people like myself that didn't have a large position in it, that wanted to get a position off. And just to reiterate something, see how you have this long red bar here? That's when all these people said, that's it, I've had enough, I bought here, I want out of it, and that's what transpired. Notice since that red bar, how you have not broken this. So when I talk about this, this would be, in my opinion, your ultimate stop to get out of. And just disclosure, I have a fairly decent sized position in this now. Decent size for me, I should say. So what you need is you need to get above this level. But what happened today? Well, let's go through yesterday, actually. You priced at 62 and a half, I believe. And then when it priced there, you opened up. Everybody was all excited and giddy. And then everybody sold into that. And so then you came down, and this found a little rest right on the top of this day. Okay. Nothing great. We would have liked to have closed above the 21 day. Would have liked to have seen that big push higher to the 70 level. We just didn't get it. And that's okay. It's just working through that secondary. The people that bought that secondary that were looking for the quick pop that blew it back out. That's what you're dealing with. Now, today it looks like we're through those people. Why do I say that? Well, let's just understand this. See where you opened here and where you closed here? Okay, it's a hammer. It's a clear hammer. Notice how the parts of this green and this hammer are in here, right? So let's get rid of these indicators for a moment. See how here's your wick, right? Look how your open is here, and look where your close is. Okay. So now that you're wedged in there, this was price rejection, right? This red, we know that was price rejection right there. And now we're out of that. And that's not rejecting that price anymore today, is it? So that's giving us a signal like, hey, we might get back in here. So I already threw this out as a buy idea, but for those that are not in it already, a higher high from this, without a doubt, is something that could be used as a pivot. If you want to be super technical, you need to break that. I'm not waiting for that. I don't need to wait for that. The stop is so little that I'm not really that concerned about it. I'm not going to give up, another point on a 10-point move, 10% of the gain. I don't need to, right? This was a very clear buy today. I felt it was, but I understand the concern, but you just have to use this low as your stop. And I do think that I was pretty clear today with some people to buy in like the 62s. Maybe I needed to be a little more emphatic, but I do feel that we could see a large push back up to the 70 level. And I think it could happen sooner than people think. We're through all the secondary selling, and you're going to eventually, let's get through this. You're going to get through this 21 day pretty quickly, and you're going to push. And the fact that you didn't take out a lower low today clearly means that CELH is through all that nonsense and cleared those people up. So Dash was one that we were in and then got stopped out at a break even. And this has just got stuff all over it. So let's just get rid of everything. Okay. And we're just going to take a look here. I don't see I get it. I don't see the rush yet. Okay. I see the bounce. I like the trade. I like the fact that you tried once and now we're going to try again. You need to wait to get above this. Okay. If you get above this, this will be a much more powerful move. And the reason is because we've already failed here once. So once I clear out all these people, right, that would get rid of, and now all that selling's gone, this push is going to be greater. And that's what's going to happen here. I do think that this breaks 155.50. And if it does, I think that you're in decent shape here for a solid push. I think that you can see how we dried up in here. See how the volume, when you got to this level, look how the volume dried up. So that's kind of telling us what we need to be looking for here. 155.50. And then this would be something that I would be very interested in. And let's just go through this again. I just want to point out a couple things. You still have to deal with this. You still have to deal with 167, okay? But you've broken your downtrend, and you'd be the first higher high the stock's had since it's been out. So that's something to consider. Okay. So this is EXPI, and we traded this one a little bit before in the newsletter. We broke out here, and then we bought it. This was back in January, February, and had a nice run. And then we did a stock split, and then it came in. So for a moment, let's get rid of the indicators, and let's just look at what's going on here. These lines have been voided, so we're going to get rid of them. And really what we have up here is we have this level, which is telling us really where our high is. But this is what's going on. This 37.90 level is really what we have to concern ourselves with. We tried to get through 41, and we just were not able to get through that level. We rolled, and you can see you have that little, for those that know, this is kind of like a little evening star pattern, but there's something more going on here that we're going to discuss. And what you're seeing happen here is you're seeing that test and you're seeing it hold. So let's just put it in here so you can see what I'm talking about. So there's a line right here, right? There's a rising wedge line. And on the bottom of this rising wedge line, 2/3 of that trade is a Morningstar pattern, right? So here's your left sell. Here's your reversal on a hammer right against your trend line. Okay. So breaking a higher high of this is technically a buy. And that would, to complete the Morningstar pattern, we'd have to get to the top of this, which would get us to 39.50. Okay. And get us through that resistance. That's technically what's supposed to happen. So your low of this bar, right, is right here at 34.55. So getting above this 36, you roughly have a $1.50 stop to get in the trade. So just consider that. It is something that could work. Now let's throw in the indicators, and you can see not only flipping this, what it's going to do, it's going to get us to close above the 200 day again, which would be positive. And I like the way that the 50 is turning up, and the 50 is going flat actually, and the 21 is turning up. So consider this. Consider watching this one. I like it. I know that it's disappointing because everybody wanted it to go, and there's a lot going on here. And it just, it came down the other day. But when you're in a bull market, in a real bull market, stocks go down as much as they go up. They just eventually will go higher on the magnitude of the move up. You want to see that. It's healthy. Right? You just don't want breakaway, runaway markets. I know people think that they do, but you can do much better on when they're pulling back and everything's just not running away and you're chasing, because you don't know when it's going to end, right? I mean, that's the question. You just don't know. Like this, everybody loved this until about a week later or 2 weeks later, right? And then they realized they lost months and days, right? 1, 2, 3, and you lost all that in 3 days. So you just have to think like that. You're much better off being in a position where you have like an actually healthy market where people are buying the right stocks. And I do think this is going to get some action and consolidate. And 37.90 is a sticking point, but I think we'll be okay there. Fossil. This was not one that I have looked at in the past. FOSL. And here, look. This is pretty clean to see. Oh, I don't want that. Hold on. Bear with me. So there you go, 1608. So that's the level you're looking for, 1608. You can see how we tried to get up there and it wasn't able to. Kind of have a pattern that's completing here. I would say this is positive. See how you are here, right? And I know that I get into detail. For those that are new to watching me, I do a lot. I'm very detailed oriented with these. But you see how we're walking up? What's that telling you? It's telling you that the guy that was selling or the lady that was selling, they're done selling, right? The stock they were selling at 1363, 1394. Now they're at 14. What does that mean? Well, now that we can get rid of these horizontal lines, it means that what you're doing is you're forming a wedge, right? And let's just get rid of all of them for a moment. It'll just be easier. And then we'll just show you this. Okay. So there you are. Now, this is going to have a moment where it's going to have to make a decision. I am above my 200 day. I'm above my 50 day. I'm above my 21 day. So if I was a betting person, which I am, I would bet that this is going to break out. My volume is anemic. And so I would try to look to understand what's relative volume and see if that is helpful. And it's really not. I just have just anemic volume. So I would want to see at least 2x average daily volume before I bought this, even if it broke out. And then what you're going to really look for, your first level that you're really going to try to get above is going to be that $19. But I do like how this is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. That means, again, something's going to happen. And if you're a betting person, if it's the 21's pointing up and the 50's pointing up and the 200's pointing up, sometimes a duck's a duck. So I would definitely put this on my watch list. It's of interest. With something like this that's been basing so long, something else you can use to help you. You can take a look at the RSI and see if it makes a difference. And in this case, it really doesn't. You're just kind of bouncing around with the idea in and of itself. So it's not really adding any value, but it's definitely something that you can look at and see when you're basing if that's going to be able to help you. It didn't really do anything for us there for Fossil. So FSLY, I know people are interested in this because cloud's doing so well. I would not be that interested in this. And again, do me a favor and please comment on the black screen and the white lettering and the zoomed in. Try to comment on all three so I can understand if this was helpful, if it was too zoomed in, if it was the background's not good. Some people seem to like the black. It's easier to see. I like the blue, but staring at this, the contrast is very clear. And so maybe we should be doing the black. It's not really what I like. It's what works. So 48.50, you can see we popped right in here and see how you had that wedge gap. And this is FSLY, but let's talk about this for a minute so we understand this trade. So you broke down here and you actually ran this little trend that was up here, right? I mean, you can get that a little closer actually. So there's a little trend right here and you've held that. But what's really important is getting back into this. See this bar when you got back into it finally? You kind of did here and then it made you second guess yourself and then it finally did it again. See how the second time's the charm, not the first one? So, and that happens a lot. Second time's the charm. Don't give up. Like if you buy it here because it broke this level and then you get stopped out, you get discouraged, stay on it because it may happen again. And then this time it broke out and then this becomes your stop and then you just get stopped out of it. And if you do get stopped out, you just enter it again. So what you can see here is you can see a rally up, and we've seen that rally up. Now look at this. Okay, you have filled that gap. Right on this bar, you went right to it. And then you opened up above it, right? And then they jammed you back down, and now you're probably going to try again, right? First time didn't work, did it? Second time might work, okay? Start thinking like that. Start thinking first time's the test, second time's really what you want to see. So based upon that, what I would say is, let's see how this develops, but I would be telling you to look at the other names. I think the other names are in much better shape than this. If I was really heck bent being on this, and this is the one that I wanted to be in, I would be looking at getting me above the 50-day and staying above the 50-day before I would consider being in it. And you know, the other names that I really like are like Crowd. I really like this name. Let's remove this. Symbol's up here now. And you can see how we're right in this range, right? You've just been bouncing around here. I still like this. I still think it could break out here. And it had a great day again today, holding those gains. This is having a great day. You know, net is about ready to explode out of this range through here. It would be something that I'm really going to have to take a hard look at buying. You know, I really liked it at the 87 level, but I shied away from it. But usually if you're breaking through this and you've based this long, this is setting up for a monster move to, you know, 120, 130. And I think it's going to happen fairly quickly. And I don't got to look at when their earnings, their earnings are coming out shortly. So I'd want to be out before that, but that's August. So I have time. So we'll see. As long as I'm up in the trade at least 10% before earnings, I'll stay in. Anything less, I usually will cut or hedge in some way. So I would focus on them more than FSLY. And if you were interested in FSLY, I would consider the plan that I just kind of mapped out there. And we're going to get rid of these indicators for a minute and get rid of this one. Just pull this down here and just see. So here's your wedge, and you broke your wedge. You have yet to break a higher high on Fitch, right? So you need the higher high break. That's going to put you here. Okay, that's what you need right now. Now, you have a minor move before you get to this 5186 level that's right here. Okay, 4962. Okay, that's what you need to look at. Look at that 4962 level and see if that's something that, hold on one second. You can look at that 4962 level. That's something that you want to see it break before you get involved with. But you might not want to wait until this because you think it's going to break here. That's fine. 1, 2, 3. If you break this level and you want to try it, just realize that this is going to be your stop. This 46 is really 46.83 is your stop. And you can get in this before it gets to this 51.86. But getting through 51.86 is confirmation that this wedge is over and that this becomes our target. Our target always becomes the top of the wedge. Wherever the top of that wedge is, whether it was here and it broke, right, then this one would be to start. You follow me? So just keep that in mind. I like that trade. So Globe, this is very disappointing, you know, to say the least. This is really disappointing. And if I was in this, I'd be like, oh, I thought I was going to break out and it was really going to go today. And now I have this. You know, you're at 52 at one point. High five and everybody, and now you're down here. I would be concerned. The only positive about this, and we can throw the indicators in, the only positive that I see with it is the fact that you still close green. But that sell down, let's take a look at how this went today. Yeah, so you opened, you spiked up, you sucked everybody in, and then you dropped down. And let's just go through the 15-minute and see how long that took. Yep, that's about as nasty as you can get. So you opened up, convinced everybody that we were going to run. Everybody bought in, and then that was it. All the buyers, now everyone just sat with it. Now they're wondering what they own. I would be cautious here. You know, I would be really cautious here with games like this. This looks like an exhaustion move, and when you see those, they usually correct a little faster than you think they're going to. So I definitely would not be a buyer. If I was long it and I took out that, I'd have to, took out that low, I'd have to understand, let's throw the 5 and the 8 in, moving average, and see if that gives us any color. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? So what it's telling us is we've been respecting these lines. So if we break these lines, if you've been in this for a while, a close below either one of these has not really happened, has it? If we look at them, right? We really haven't closed below them. So you could say a close below the 5-day and it's time to get out. A close below the 8-day, it's time to get out, depending upon how much risk you want to take. I would use the 5 personally, but breaking this level, theoretically, this should come back down to here and test here to 40. I mean, this would be a huge pattern, right? So you should come back to this level. And that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because you're really on that level anyway, here, 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 and here, and the 8-day. So that's a possibility. So just understand that if you break here, this is probably where you're going. But I would not buy this until this figures out what it's going to do. That's a nasty, nasty move. So gold, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a weekly chart because it'll tell us more of the story. And we can get rid of this one for this moment. We don't really need it. And we can get rid of the 5-week and the 8-week. They're not really helping us right now. So what do we need to do here? What needs to transpire? Well, here is very simple. You have this going across 183, and then you tried to rally up. What we need to do is we need to stay in this, right? So how are we going to stay in this trade if we want to stay in it, right? We'd have to look at it and try to figure out where our stop would be. So this is kind of tough, and it's kind of why I want to walk through it. If you were looking at this, where would you want your stop? Because you're kind of rounding up here, right? And by rounding, I mean that you're trying to get up and then you came back down and now you're on the, you're on the 50 week. And but I'm still above this. So what I would argue is I would argue that this is your pivot getting above this 50 week line. Okay. You haven't been above there since back here. And then you had all this and now you're above it again. So if we break down below this, I think it's a safe assumption that we're going to go through this again. And I'm going to point out why I say that. We really have not had that happen for 2 years, right? Even here, it didn't really happen. It only happened here in February. So the probability of something happening again, if it happened in the same year, is higher, right? Just remember that. If it happened in that year already, the probability of it happening there again is higher. So if I close below this line on the weekly, that would be my stop. I would play it that tight. And where does that put us at? That puts us at 173.77. A weekly close below there, and I would be gone. And I would use a weekly close. I'd want to play it out for the week. If you can't stay in it for the week, you probably shouldn't be really trading GLD because it means that your position's too big for your account. A move of 170, let's look at where this has been for 2 weeks. A move from 177 to 179. I mean, if that's shaking you out, you need to be concerned about that. This breakdown and then a break here above kind of gives you a little reversal pattern, but then we broke down again today and closed below the 21-day on the daily, and you really haven't closed below the 21-day except here. And every time you did do that, it was really a buying opportunity. So I would stick with exactly the plan that we just laid out on the weekly for GLD. I would not be adding to this here. This is not something I'd be running into. I have overhead resistance up here. I have overhead resistance up here. I know people are excited because it broke this wedge. I don't care. It didn't confirm. It didn't really take out one of these peaks yet. And now we're just trading around here. So let's see how this plays out, but I would definitely be using this line as my stop and I wouldn't add to it. HIMX was one that we were looking at a lot today, and I like this. Hold on. Let's get rid of that. I like this trade. The guy that brought it up, he's right. I mean, he's dead on. I didn't see it, and he's dead right. This is a flag. It's a beautiful flag too. Like, it should be in a textbook. Look how tight it is. And look how it just keeps hitting here over and over here. And what was great about today, I mean, we have very little, I don't know why that's there, but we have very little, oh, okay, there we go. We have very little volume here, right? But look at this. Like it's fallen off. Like here's your green volume and then nobody's selling. So that's okay that nobody's selling, but nobody was buying either. Well, they started buying today. And what you're noticing in here is rejection, right? Because here, let's get into this. Rejection. We don't have rejection today, do we? We have buyers today. So whoever was in here selling to these buyers, we have cleared out. So this is setting up. This is why it's so important. I can't stress enough to be looking at candlesticks. This is so what you really want to see is just clearing that on huge volume. You want to see volume on this break. And this is a really great trading idea. And I really like the idea. I think that if you can get through here, you could be setting up for a much more powerful move. And it's a very tight stop because if you close below 14, you're out. So you're really in there for very little money. And I think it's a great idea. So overlay this and you can kind of see how we've been basing for so long. So that could lead to a very powerful move up. Let's just look for earnings and see what we have. We don't really have earnings. They already were out. So that's good. And then we can just kind of overlay relative strength and see if that's telling us anything. And it's just really telling us exactly what we already knew, that you're starting to trend higher. And this little curve is kind of alluding to the fact that possibly that we're finally going to break out here. So just keep that in mind. But I do like this idea, HIMX. So INO is one that I know people love playing. And, I wanted to go over it, but this is a clear rejection. Symbols up here now. It's a clear rejection of that 200-day. And you have so much weight. Let's get rid of this. You have so much weight here, right? We can get rid of all these lines for a moment. They're so far off. And get rid of the indicators for a moment. I mean, you're just selling after selling after, and it's still, I don't even think you're still above this line, are you? Whew, yeah, I would not, you can't really go near this. I mean, it's basically telling you we're going to reject unless we break this. And if it does, that's great news, but let's throw these back in. You need to get above the 200-day and this line. So where does that put us? Let's dive into that. Let's get a number. So that's going to put us roughly around 1050. So I would not be touching this until I got above 1050. And realistically, that's, 1033 is where you were. And that was your high wick. So you want to see 1050 and get above this 200-day because this will be coming down and this will be sloping as well. So by the time you're here, it'll be around 1050. So keep that in mind. But this is not one that I think you need to run into. I would just watch what's going on. And if I was in this and I would probably be out until it broke that. It's not something I would even want to sit with. I would be concerned. So INSM. We had a nice volume spike here where we held the bottom. We broke into this, and now we've gotten our top level here at the 50, but we really don't have a full gap fill. The full gap fill would be up here. To me, it's where the close is, not where the price was rejected. So that would get me to 32.50, but I have to get through this for that to continue. I have very little volume here, and it's falling off a cliff. So this is not something that I would play with. I'm overextended from here to here. I've already had a huge move from here up, right? I've already moved 23% and I really have no base. So what am I really looking for? Point wise, I'm looking for 2 more points, 2.5 points. And I have all this that if it corrects between the 50 and the 21. So I wouldn't be playing this. I would let it develop. I'd be more interested over the 50 and over 32.40. LUMN. So 1446 is where we've been looking at it. We broke out here and we've just consistently been grinding higher. If you get rid of these, you can see this channel. This channel's perfect, right? Let me just clone this. I'm just going to put this right here. You can just see that you're just hanging right in that channel and heading higher. So I think this continues to grind higher. Your one sticking point while you're in this wick is just going to be right here. It's going to be this close because you came, and the reason why I say that is you came in one day, understand the thought process, right? And that's also the high of this bar. It's interesting. You came in one day and you were doing great. And then the next day, not so much. So you have all these people that were in here that are waiting, to get out. And so that's why that takes a while. And you see all the volume that's right there. So if you're just sitting there waiting for it, you closed at 15, and then the next day you open at 12. You're probably not too happy. So some people will just sit with their positions for months and months and wait for them to come back, instead of just blowing them out and moving on. And right now you hit that level pretty clearly, didn't we? And rejected that level. So I'd be really careful chasing this. I wouldn't be chasing this. I'd want to see it break through 1538 before I bought it, if this was one I was interested in buying. And there's better names out there. This is kind of junky, and my volume's decreasing. So it's not something I would chase. Oxy, Oxy's going to trade exactly like XLE is going to trade. I mean, they're going to trade almost in tandem, right? I mean, that is going to trade. And we can look at this on the weekly. We're still above our major resistance here. Let's do this on the monthly. It's actually easier. But we're still above this, right? Line, let's get rid of the indicators. And we're hanging out up here. So I don't know that this moves over. We could just be resting. So I'm not in a big hurry to tell you to get out of Oxy, but as XLE goes Oxy. It's highly leveraged to it. And you can see that from November on, after the XLE started picking up, that was it. This just had a monster move. I mean, you have a triple. So I would definitely consider that. But look, you're sitting up here and you just have to watch and wait. I would not be a buyer of this. I understand that you have a flag here and that you're building that flag. I see it. I respect it. But until this confirms, right? This is really where you're at. Until this confirms and breaks out of this flag, I would definitely not be chasing it. There's too much air down here. If I break through this 28, I would roll, and I would roll pretty fast. Gas comes in, oil comes in, and this is going to get hammered. I don't know how much, and there were a lot of people talking about the Iranian news. It seemed like that was a blip on the radar. It didn't seem like that was something that we really need to concern ourselves with long term. So Rocket does what Rocket does, which is exactly make you think it's going to do something and then not do something. And that's really what we have here. So let's throw these indicators in, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. We started to get up, and now we're wedged in here. But these lines are pretty irrelevant because you're basing the whole time. So they're not really telling us a story up or above them. It's really just reading price. Now, you had a gap here. You filled the gap, and that's all you've gotten out of that so far. So off this base, you're just building and building, and you have to get above some of these levels, and you just can't do it. So could you see another move like this? Yes. But right now we need to be looking and saying, I'm not touching this till I get above $23 or some other pattern develops. But right now I want to see it come down, right? Like it did. And now I want to see it retest and break through. And that's what you need to see. You need to see it do something like that. So in other words, you're here, come down here, and then you go, right? That's what you're looking for, a move like that. If you get something like that, I might be interested. I might be interested in playing it. But until you get that, I really have very little interest in playing that name. SCR. So, and again, symbols up there. Look, I mean, it's a newer issue. I get it. The most intriguing thing to me is this volume, because that was here. But look what, last time we had this much volume, all we did was find a way to sell down. And I have a downtrend here that I'm in. Now, let's just look at this down. Let's just look at this for a moment, because right here, okay, you can kind of see it, right? We broke it and then we went. Now you have to start getting above these higher highs. So the first one you have to get through is this, okay? And you're not really there. You're through there, but not really. What I would want to see for confirmation if I wanted to play this is this level. Clear all this wick out after all this buying and show me that there's another buyer still behind there. And then I might think that we could get up to this 30 level, because that's really where you're going. That's your first target, is going to be this 30 level. That's where you should get to. So just keep that in mind. I understand what you say for the gentleman that asked me about it. I can see your volume here. I could see these levels, but it's not something that I just need to jump into right now. So, and somehow I missed this one. So I don't know if I just wanted to get it out of my mind that it even exists, but I missed Planter, and let's just do it. So And I apologize, now we're out of order alphabetically, but here's that level, 24.17. Look at this. Okay, I understand your little wedge right here, and then you broke out of it, and now you're going to go higher for the day, but I'm not in a huge hurry to buy this. Every single time we get up here, we just fail over and over and over again. So I don't really see why this time's going to be different. And you see how the volume's dropping off? I think people have just honestly had it, and that might be a good thing, and it might be why it goes this time, but not there. I'd want to get here, and let's just make sure that's accurate, and it is. So we want to get through a level. We want to see a 25 print. That would be helpful. And then also let's throw the 5 and the 8 in and see if that can tell us anything. Yeah, I mean, they're starting to respond. I mean, really the chance to buy it was the 5-8 crossover down here. That would have been a nice buy. This crossing up here does not excite me as much. And people will be like, well, why? That's a stronger close. It doesn't excite me as much because it could still come up to here, fail, and retest this area and still be in that trend. I don't really want to ride this down 3 points. So that's why that's not as interesting as this one to me, right? This is showing a short-term reversal when they cross here, and you can see how it responded to that and never broke it, right? So that was really the trade. Up here, I would watch. You've been playing around in here too long and just not able to get through it. Rocket we've done. Shack. So, I mean, you ran right to the 50-day, and now you've just shut down. And so now the question becomes, what do we do? You have to get through this. You have to get through that 50-day. I mean, it's just, you tried, you came back down, you're going to try again, but it's very clear where your issue is, and you're filling that gap, which is nice, but this is starting to point up again, and you're starting to get volume, and maybe that's because, the restaurants are opening. I'm not really sure the reason or the rationale fundamentally for it, but, you can see that you have a wedge here, and you can see that you're respecting that. You always clone those lines, because when you clone them, it gives you the right trajectory, and everybody clones them. That's why there's an actual clone button on Trendspider, so it's not like it's a big secret. But you see how you're bouncing around in here? Okay, so getting above this 50 is really what you're looking for. Get above this 50, pop out of the channel, and then you can start trying to deal with what's going on up here, right? And start dealing with some of this stuff, like 120, that kind of thing. That's what you really should be looking for out of this. Again, the volume spikes are happening. And even when there's volume spiking to the downside and people are blowing it out, it's kind of bottomed. It seems to me that it's bottomed. So skills, you're above the 200-day, and you've been staying above the 200-day, and it's shaping up. This is shaping up. I understand that people are probably not thrilled to hear that, considering it went from 24 to 21. Stocks bounce around, and this one is doing it, and you can see that, right? So just keep that in mind. But I think that you could break out and go higher. We just need to see that happen. I would not be buying it while it's doing this. We've seen this story before. We've seen it here, where we think it's going to go, and this just might be a longer story that they're telling right now before it goes. So just keep that in mind, okay? But you can see that when you have these real long red bars, they do tell you where your bottom is. They do at least show you that you're going through the bottoming process. And you're trying here. You're trying your heart out, but you got to get through this before you consider getting involved, because you can roll here and then just keep this pattern going for a while, right? So here, you see the pattern I'm talking about? Let me do it this way so you can see it. Okay, so you have this trend right here, right? And you can see the other part of it right here. So what you really want to do is you just want to focus on that I could just be going like this, right? And I could be doing it for a while. Not that you're going to take this out, but you could come back down here. So I don't really want to, I don't really want to play with it until I break this level. And I do think it's interesting that this trend line coincides perfectly with the top of this and how we rejected there twice. So obviously that's a key area for it, $25. So Snap, I like this a lot. And, it's doing everything right. If you look at this chart, this is exactly what net looked like before it broke out. We did exactly what I didn't really want to do, which was get below 64.51. I want to close above that. This is actually something I'm considering putting in the newsletter. I really think this stock's going to be a huge winner. And, you know, we're through earnings, so we don't really have to worry about it for a while as any earnings risk. But I do think that you could be in a position where this can break out once it gets above this and this, right? That's a big area for this stock. It's been 64.51. Notice how we closed here and here. It's why people always say, well, why do you wait for the close? Well, if I bought it thinking it was going to break here or here, here or here, like look at the ride that you had to go through and to break even over 3 months. Like who wants to do that? I'd rather wait and pay up, right? And then I have confirmation. And this is setting up perfectly. I mean, here's your little handle. But now it's go time. We have to close above 64.51. I don't know who's in there and why they won't stop selling, but they keep selling up here. So let's watch that. We'll go from there. These curling up is good, but it doesn't do as much for me as this 200-day and what it's doing, how that just keeps going higher and higher, and how this stock is getting closer to that. I like how it's getting closer to the 200-day. That means that, you know, where some of the fluff is coming off, but these just going sideways and then crossing here, crossing there, they do nothing for me as they base. But this is telling you a decent story that you're getting closer and closer. And you can see that how the 200 was down here. And at one point, look, I mean, you get where I'm going with this. Like you were 100% off your 200-day here, right? Now you're 34% off. So when you work stuff like that down and the base starts happening, people start getting more and more interested. And frankly, this will just start pushing the stock higher. I mean, that's kind of how it works in theory. So the SOXL, like everybody else, I am just waiting for it to break. And let's get rid of this. If you could do me a favor, if you find this video helpful, please click the like button. I'm trying to get in front of as many people as possible to show them what it takes to be truly successful at trading. And the algorithm looks at how many clicks we get on the like button. So I would appreciate it. So what you see happening here is, let's drill into it. This is the one little line I was looking at today, and we did get above it. So if you were trying to get your edge off, it's right there. But I still have this. So I still have a point. I'm only going to get a point out of it, right? And then this breaking below this little level gets me back into the channel. So a point there. So my risk is 1-to-1. So whether or not you want to play it or don't play it, just watch that level. Now you have this downward trend line. So just consider watching that downward trend line. Okay. That's your big push. Everyone will remember, well, maybe not, but like in April in the newsletter, I was pretty clear. We bought this for a trade back here. And when we got up here, I was pretty clear that, okay, we've had a huge move. Let's get out of it. Let's let this work itself out. And that's exactly what we did. And then again, we actually, in the newsletter, we just got out around here again. And the reason for that was, why take the risk? Like we were up so much on the trade. Why take the risk? And down here, when we bought, you know, on just a live call through Twitter, I did state that, you know, you might want to hold on to this stock after you trim some of it, because you might not see that again. And this is setting up for that, but you can just see all the junk that's in here that you have to get through. I mean, this little trend line's nothing compared to this monster, right? I mean, this is big stuff to get through. That's not easy. So that's going to take some time. But if NVIDIA keeps going up the way that it does and the others start participating, I think that'll increase. So space, you know, space is one that when you think it should go up, it goes down and vice versa, right? And people get extremely frustrated. We can get rid of the segment lines and all these little levels. You know, let's actually just get rid of all of them and just make it cleaner. So you can see the breakout ever since you came out with the successful launch, and it's just done exceptionally well. There is a large short position in it, but this is very interesting. You got up to this level and you've been rejecting it ever since, 36. So just watch that. You are far off this level from where you've moved to in a very short period of time. This is a pretty decent move up to here in a resistance spot. In 2 weeks, you're up 40%. So you're going to have to watch this level very closely. Now, so far, you've had one close above it, 3 rejections. So just watch this. I would not be a buyer until it closes above that 36 level. And then I would just be cautious. This can come down fast, but it's done exceptionally well since that day. I mean, it really has. It's just gapping and running, and you're seeing tons of volume come in it, and it's acting way better than I thought. And you can even see the rejection the one day where you think it's over, but then it came right back and it cleared up whoever that seller was. So I can see why people are looking at this. 10 I like, but it just, the action Thursday was just very disappointing. So, and this is what I'm talking about for those that haven't been following this name. So this was a major resistance point on a much longer time frame chart that I'll show you in a moment. And we opened, got up over it, closed, and broke down. So it's really going to screw up my weekly chart. Okay. See where now it gives me this doji right on the top of here, which gives me an evening star pattern. So if I take this out, 1967, theoretically the pattern doesn't close until I get back down to $16. Okay. What I wanted to do was get above this 25, 21 and close above it, and then try to push and take out 26. So plan didn't really work out the way that I wanted it to. I got a nasty rejection bar, and I would wait and see how this clears itself up. But that 1967 level, if you break that, understand that you can roll back down and be concerned about it. And I would not touch this till I get over that level. But more importantly, now you might want to even wait until you get over this, because clearly somebody's been up there waiting for it to get up there to sell it. I mean, that's very clear, right? Wicks or price rejection. This is just straight dumping. So just keep that in mind. TLRY, there's not really much to talk about. We had this in the newsletter. I won't bore everyone with the notes. But, I really don't see an issue. We broke out. We obviously 22.14 did not work out the way that we wanted it to. You're still sitting right here at this 1959 or 57 level, right? But look at it. I mean, it's not breaking down. If anything, this is just setting up to go higher. It really is. So, it's interesting. I'm just looking at the list. No one asked about UPST today. I'm going to go over it, though. I'm surprised. Maybe everyone's seen enough. Maybe this is when we should be buying it now that nobody wants to talk about it anymore. But you see how you have this little wedge right here? Get above that high. Okay, and you'll see people become very interested in it. 2020, people be interested in it again. I added to this position on the pullback yesterday. I'm very comfortable with it. I see no reason to do anything with it. I've just been sitting there. U1, I just wanted to go over. We had somebody that had just an awesome trade in it today, and that I'm aware of, and I'm very happy for them. It's really interesting because you look at this, right, and you can kind of go back all the way to here, but it's just fascinating to understand how this really works. That this little level right here, right, could affect this stock. And that's exactly what happened. Like I find this stuff so fascinating to me, that somebody was literally sitting there waiting all that time for this to come back so they could sell. And that's exactly where it rejected. You see this weekly line on 23? Look at this. And this is why it's so important for everyone, and I'm stressing this, to look at multiple time frames. Look at this rejection. Hits there, rejects down. Tries again. Where does it reject? Up there. Never gets back to that level. So you can see how you can use a weekly resistance line on a 5-minute chart. And the question is now, what do you do? I got to be honest, I'm not sure that this is over. I'm just not sure of that. So we're going to have to see how this plays out. I think that based upon this break, you could run and you could keep going. But you need to get above 23 now. You really do. I'd be very cautious owning this unless I closed above 23. But if you close above 23 on this, look, there's nothing there until $31. Like this could just motor right through there. I don't think this is over. I just think it's tired. I mean, that's a big move, right? But that volume's coming in and the volume's increasing. So this might not be over, but I'd really like to see close above 23. VXRT, I think there was news today on it. You can see, hold on one second. I apologize. I'll draw that a little bit cleaner. Okay. You can see that little rejection right there. Decent volume. spiky wick. I'm just not interested. I mean, I'll cover it so we can talk about it, but this is not really doing anything for me. Look at the rejections. Okay. If this was such great news, it should have gone a little higher, done a little bit more than it did. Now, it was a great trader, right? But it should have stayed there. This was one that, hold on one second. Let me go here. We talked about it today and we're trading it, but we talked about the levels, but there's a very simple trade. Here's your rising wedge. And then, you know, I was pretty clear today that I think you were going to put a short-term top at 10. We did, but that was based upon reading this. When you hit a single digit to a double digit number, for whatever reason, it doesn't make any sense to me. But whenever you hit from a single digit to a double digit number, or a double digit to a triple digit number, or vice versa, these stocks reject for some reason. They become resistance points. And I'm not sure the reasoning for it, but it happens. They become resistance points that you have to pay attention to. And that's what happened here today. And I find it silly, but it's true. But you can just see the buying of this and how orderly it was. And then as soon as that rejected here, and you basically, I mean, I won't call this a bearish engulfing because you didn't take the whole bar out. But then when you broke here on your rising wedge, that was it. Trade was over. And he just fell down. So I'd watch this level, and you can see how this level that we drew off that other line is significant, right? So we drew this off of a daily, right? Or actually we drew this off of, back here. So you can see how that line is still significant here. How it's even on a 5-minute chart, that line matters. So again, please comment on the screen being blown up and the colors and let me know. I understand. I mean, to me, I would think if you were on a phone, this is definitely way better, but I just want to hear your opinions. I find it helpful. So Wing, somebody really wanted to go through all these stocks today. And you know what? Before we get into Wing, let's just do this. So, I'll draw this back in a moment because we have too much going on here. So this was the level that I drew out today on where we could go to. And we were just very fortunate that it got there. I mean, we were talking about this one a lot, right? But here, look, you're right there. But there's no reason to buy this. Like there's just none. This is about as nasty a bar as you can get, right? You gap down and the high is the open. The low is the close. It's just selling. It's just straight selling no matter how much, you try to put, and I have a ton of levels on this because I've been looking at it for so long. No matter how much you try to put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. And until this turns around, you just really need to get out of the way. Remember this, if you remember anything from these videos, it can always get worse than you think. Always, right? We think this is going down because of the lockup expiration. What if there's something else going on that we're not understanding yet, right? That's why I always use technical analysis to make my decisions and not just the fundamental picture, because the fundamental picture of this company is fascinating. And I think they're going to be around a long time, and they're just growing by leaps and bounds. Your major support is $81. If you break here and you can't hold the 50-day, it means institutions are not buying it. And they want it to clear out. And I believe everyone's concerned about this lockup and adding pressure to it. I always find these lockups silly that people worry so much about them because these people are usually hedged ahead of time anyway. They just can't access the capital until then. So you can kind of see how this can trade itself down to this level pretty fast, 80. I don't think that that's going to happen. My thought is that we're going to break the 50 and everyone's going to panic, and then we're going to find some place to base around there. But to think that this move is over, I don't think that this selling is over. I think that you're going to have another day where people are going to just have a hard time believing where it goes to. That's just my feeling on it. So I hope that's helpful. Wing, you got a nice flag here. And I must have this trend line from before. Yeah, this is an old trend line. It's interesting, right? How that's playing out here. Let's get rid of this. But that's a very interesting trend line, how it's playing right into that and how it's holding there. So let's get rid of that for a moment. And let's just drill into this. We have a bull flag sitting right there, and we have a little wedge. I like this. I don't like the volume. I wish we had better volume. I've never eaten at a Wingstop either. So they have them all over Florida though. Okay. All right. So this is really where you have to watch. This is where you're heading for. But you want to break this wedge and then pop up. But that would be my concern. You'd have to watch this level up here. I like it. I can see why you're interested in this. The lack of volume is a concern. Let's see if the RSI. Yeah, the RSI is telling you a story. I mean, it's confirming that this is you're in an uptrend. So I like this, and I like the channel, and it matches perfectly. So this is definitely, I could see why somebody's watching this and has it on their radar. I get it. I get it, but you just have to be aware that you have this huge trend up here. And frankly, it goes all the way back to here where you've just been breaking out and basing. And the further I go back, I mean, when this breaks, and it will eventually break, right? Like you can see that. I mean, if I spend a little more time on this, you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay. See how you're forming this wedge here? Now look at how this wedge is finally coming to an end after about, wow, how long has this been? Yeah. I mean, you've got 13 months of this. Yeah. When this breaks, it's going to go. The longer the base, the bigger the breakout. So when this runs, this is going to run. So it's a very interesting chart, and I could see why you're interested in it. But, it depends how you want to play this. So you could, let's just zoom in again on this. So you could play it based upon breaking this wedge to the upside, in which case you're really using this, which is like 152, or you can wait for it to break here. It's really your choice. You could break this, and then the first time it doesn't go and then comes back. And you can see how it's been respecting this for some time, right? I mean, it's been respecting these levels for months and months. So just be aware of that. XPEV was one that we were looking at today. I think that you're there, and I think that you're getting ready to really push. I want to see a couple things. And what got me about it today is I'm very happy that you're above this level, and I think it can go. But today's volume was decent, but it wasn't great. No, let's just put it in context so we understand it. Okay, there's your relative volume. Okay, 1.25. I mean, that's not really the type of volume you want to see on a breakout. You want to see volume like this, 2, 3. And you can equate that maybe to, oh, it's Sunday or it's a summer. I shouldn't say Sunday, but, it's summer or a slow day. But what difference does that make? You have to look at it and think that this is the hand that I'm dealt and this is the volume. If it was so great, you would get volume. We had volume in CELH at the end of the day. What troubled me about this at the end of the day was this. You really, hold on, let me do it this way. It'll highlight it more. You couldn't get above this and stay above this level. You just couldn't do it. Look at it. Look how many times that you have a wick through this level. And then when you did it once, it just rejected and then became down. So I was a little concerned about that. Now you had buying at the end of the day, which is nice to see, but I would rather wait until I have real volume coming in. Now a higher high on this, and it's probably going to run. The fact that I'm through this level, right? I mean, there's a couple key things here. Look, I'm through this level, which is substantial. Okay. It is substantial because this was your double bottom. And now you're really confirmed because you're in this base and you didn't just break out this little level, right? You broke out this level. So this is pretty much a solid move. I just like to see more volume on the breakout, but this does have potential. Yalla, I can cover very quickly. I mean, look, you got to get above this 50-day. Look how many times, I don't even need any of these other segment lines or other lines. Remove this so we can get rid of this. So, I could just go right off of this. I can't get above the 50-day. Even when I do, I really don't. It just keeps rejecting. So before I would even consider buying this, I would want to see that. And it is just, the volume is just absolutely anemic, right? I mean, it's off. It's just gone. So that's great. Nobody's selling it anymore, but nobody seems even remotely interested in buying it. So I would be very cautious here in adding to this. you have a couple key things you need to see, but before you see anything, you need a close above 2085 as of now. ZIM, I really like the action today. I thought it was great action. We started off not like it was going to be a good day. It just priced the secondary at 40, and ever since then, it's just been grinding higher. It's a shipper out of Israel, and they, the competitors, obviously everybody knows who their competitors are. But what I like about it is you're just constantly breaking these little levels and breaking out. And it did it again today at this 45 3/4. And, I use that as a trigger today, right? And then of course, when it broke out, then it just absolutely, hold on here. So you can see how this was your level, then you were here. And then you can just see that when you broke out and then how it just played. It was just a really good day, but it did it here off the rip. And this little pattern convinced me that we were going to go up. And then on top of that, I had all this volume. So I was absolutely convinced we were going up, right? And so that's why I pulled the trigger immediately, this volume here. And then what it did was just teach me another lesson, right? And come back down. But where my stop was placed, I was not concerned about it. I gave it enough room so I could figure it out. So in the end, the trade did work, and I feel comfortable with it that you're going to start seeing more and more buying in it. And this is really what I'm talking about with volume that you want to see. See this volume curve? See how this keeps going up? That's what you want to see in your stocks. More and more people want what you're in. That's what you're looking for. So that's it. Everyone, enjoy your weekend. Any questions, reach out to me on YouTube or Twitter or Reddit, and we will go from there. Have a great weekend, everybody.